Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing book series yet again. But these are going to be the ones that I did not finish. Whether I maybe finished the first book, decided not to continue. Sometimes I just didn't even finish the first book on its own. I mean, that's really the whole video. I don't know what else to say. So let's just get started. So the first one that I'm going to mention is A Darker Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. Now, I read the first book, loved the first book, read the second book, hated the second book, thought maybe the third book would come around because I've seen people say it's such a good conclusion. No, I just was so bored in the third book. The third book was just terrible. And to be fair, I don't think I enjoy the narrators. I know they're incredibly popular narrators, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding. They've done A Wheel of Time, they've done The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Art, they've narrated so many books. But if I see their names, I will avoid listening to those books because I don't like, especially Kate Redding. Michael Kramer just puts me to sleep, but Kate Redding, just something about her, I don't know. So maybe I would read it physically and enjoy it more, I don't know, but just the level of mixed reviews on that series overall has me feel like maybe it's not just the narrators, maybe it's just the story. So I don't know, but I did not finish the third book. I tried so hard and it was so excruciating. I just could not stand to continue reading that book. Next up we have Serpent and Dove, which was kind of like a fun trash book. Like, I think I gave it 2.5 stars because I do feel like I read it so fast, like I read it in like maybe 2 days, and it was mildly entertaining, but like it just had so little fantasy elements that made me want to keep going. I'm realizing that as I'm making these videos, like I just feel like it had so few elements in the fantasy aspects that were like, oh, this is intriguing, like I want to know more about the world. It was like, no, this is really just like a romance with a fantasy backdrop, like, which is fine. So that's what some people like. For me, no. Which, like, I can get down with the romance with the fantasy backdrop, but I feel like this could have just been a standalone and it would have been fine. Like, I feel like I think it had a cliffhanger ending. It's been so long since I read it. I mean, like, it was just like fun trash, but like I just don't care enough to continue. Like, it was fine. Next up we have Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. This one, I feel like I didn't really care for the characters. I just didn't really feel like it really had that much going for it. I don't want to shit on these books too much, but like it just wasn't for me. I don't know, something about her writing, it just doesn't really click for me. I am kind of still interested in some of her other work. Like the one, I think her debut, I don't know why, I'm thinking of like, I think it has something to do with the circus. Something City, the Burning Cities, Daughter of the Burning City, maybe? I would maybe try that. And just see if maybe, because I know I think it's Amanda Foody that did All of Us Villains? I don't know. I would maybe try something else by her, but this series, not continuing. Next up we have The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, who oh man, I wanted to love it so bad. I really, I want to give into the hype. I want me and the hype to get along, but this one, it was just so boring. Like, it was just so boring. I felt like it was just constant descriptions of food and Jude getting abused over and over and over again by every single man that she ever met. And I'm just like, how is this fun to read? Like, I'm sorry, how do people enjoy this? I don't understand. I DNF'd the book. I didn't even finish the book, so I'm not going to do the series. Next up is a really, really popular one. And okay, it's The Last Locomora by Scott Lynch. And I think I got about 80% into this too. Like, I really will give books a really long time before I give up, especially when it's someone that when it's a book that I'm just so convinced is gonna be a favorite. Because I talked about this in my most disappointing reads. Like, it's a book that I thought, because it has similar techniques to The Name of the Wind, I thought I would love this, and I just didn't. I was much more interested in him as a younger character than an older character. Maybe at the last 20% was gonna blow my mind. It could have. I don't know. I didn't finish it. I didn't care enough to find out. But this is one that I would maybe reread physically, or just even listen to. The narrator was good. I don't have an issue with the narrator. I think the narrator was good. I just think it was maybe my mood. Maybe it was me. I feel like this one could have been on me. So out of all of these, this one is going to be the most likely to get another shot. Next up we have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Now, I did finish the book, and this is so hard to talk about. I don't want to spoil anything, but the ending, any book that has this ending, any book that does this thing, I understand why it blows people's mind and why they find it interesting, but to me, the book is relying so heavily on the twist that I feel like it kind of lacks other interesting elements. Now, I or also I feel like there were things being done instead of this book. And since finishing the book and thinking about the book way after the fact, I'm like, I kind of see what Ms. Jemison was trying to maybe make a metaphor about here and there. So like, I get it, but I just don't know if I found the characters in the plot as engaging and interesting as other people. Now, I do have other series by her I am still interested in, mainly the 100,000 Kingdoms, which I know is her debut, but I do want to read that series, but not, I don't know, we'll give it a minute, but there we go. Next up we have The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chokshi. This one is, I didn't finish the book. Something about her writing, I cannot stand it. I couldn't stand it. It was like overly descriptive and pretentious. I don't even remember, honestly. Like, it was just so confusing. It was like confusing for no reason. It was like, but why is this, like, this shouldn't be this confusing. And I just didn't finish it. And these covers are absolute knockouts. So like, I wish I loved the series. And it's like historical urban fantasy, which is like something that I love the Diviners. Like, I love, like, Cassandra Clare's, like, historical stuff too. Like, I love historical urban fantasy as a concept, but this execution of it was so not for me. Next up we have Red Rising, which I've talked about in so many other videos. I talked about it in my worst books of the year. I talked about it in like my series tag video that I just did. I've talked about it in all of those things, so I don't want to, hound it too much, but Pierce Brown's writing, again, I guess that's a big factor for me. I mean, that makes sense. Like, reading, you have to enjoy what you're reading. You have to enjoy the writing of the book. Something about the authorial voice, like, drove me up the wall in this book. Like, it was just so, I want to say misogynistic, but like, I don't know. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. I thought it was the audiobook. Just to be clear, I thought maybe it's the audiobook. And then I started reading it with my eyes, and I couldn't not hear it being read to me the way that narrator read it, because it's so, I don't have words for it. I hated it. Next up we have All Systems Red by Martha Wells, which this one, again, I went with the audio, and I feel like people talk about how it's so hilarious and so funny, and I kind of went with that expectation, and that's not what I really got. So I think me and Miss Martha just have different opinions on what's funny. It's so short, so like, I kind of want to read it again and just see what happens. Like, any book, I think any book I could read again, because I'm still trying to learn if personally my mood is affecting like my ratings, and my enjoyment of the books, because it's totally possible. But for now, I'm considering it a TNF. Next up we have Delirium by Lauren Oliver, which I think I read in 2021, the first book, and it was surprisingly engaging. Like, it was not by any stretch of the imagination like out of this world. It wasn't fantastic, but I was just like, you know what, this was a good time. Like, this was a good time. And a part of me was just gonna continue the series like as a joke, but like, there's just so many other series that I want to read, and I'm trying to develop my personal favorite series list. Like, I'm working on it so hard. I really want to have a top 10 list, and that is definitely not one that would make it. So I might as well give it up. Next up we have the Lunar Chronicles, which I think I read the first 3, so I read most of the series. There's only one book left, and that part of me wants to maybe just read the final book just to have another completed series, but it's just not really worth it, because again, I don't think it'll become a favorite series. I think it's really good for the time it came out. Like, if I was reading it as it came out, I would have been excited, I would have been thrilled, I would have been there with all the girlies like hyping it up, like I would have been into it. But it's kind of past its time, I feel like. And I mean, I also read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. These are the same author. And I like her plot. I really enjoy her plot and like her world, but her characters are kind of lackluster for me. Again, like, I have to have it all. I have to have the writing, the plot, and the characters. Like, I have to have it all. I am selfish. So she falls for me. She fails for me on that front. Next up we have The City of Brass by S. Chakraborty, which I also just talked about in my series video. So this is another one that I decided not to finish because of the characters. Just couldn't connect to the characters. World's interesting enough. Maybe I would read it. Maybe I would continue. One day, should I be bored enough to do it? But for now, it's gonna be enough. Oh my god, then we have Kingdom of the Wicked. I forgot that I read this. I completely forgot I read this book. It literally left my mind. It was just that I completely forgot it was even on my list to discuss. Like, not even kidding. So that just goes to show you how little of an impact it had on me. I completely forgot that I have ever read that book in my life. Yeah, I remember it had like really good like food descriptions. There's like one of the, what are they called? The Princes of Hell. Sure, he comes out, but he's really hot. Like, great, we love that. But it was not, it had very little depth, in my opinion. Next up we have The Raven Boys. I read the first 2 books, And again, we have this theme of it just felt confusing for no reason. Like I felt like I shouldn't have been confused, but I was kind of confused. But I don't know. It's one that I'm also on the fence about. This one in Last Locomora, I could be lying in this video. I could be lying, but I don't think I'm going to reread the Raven Boys anytime soon. There's just so many other series I want to read. But man, this really, I mean, it's urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy kind of situation with ley lines. Like I just really, really thought it would be up my alley. I really thought this would be the one for me because like, and I know it has LGBT representation in the later books. Like I just, maybe I could be convinced, but her writing to me, it's not giving what other people say it gives. For me, it's not giving. She's not giving me what she's giving y'all. Okay, next up, this one hurts. It's An Ember in the Ashes because I loved the first book. I loved the first book so much. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this has like potential for all-time fave status. Like this book, if these books continue at this level, like this really could be, oh, it could have been so good. And like, again, the thing is that the first book was so good and the second book was just so, there was a reveal at the end of the book that I was like, that didn't feel earned at all. That ending was just, like, it's interesting, but there was nothing to set it up. There was no way that we could have known. There was like, it was just intentional shock value. It was intentional, it made me mad. It made me so mad. But I don't know, again, it's one that I would maybe just, I don't think I would reread. I still remember what happens vividly because I do think Sabaa Tahir is a very talented writer. So, and I do enjoy her writing and I like the characters, you know. It's so violent. Also, the first book and the second book are so violent. I don't know. It's one that I'm on the fence about this as well. So maybe I would continue it, but for now, it's going to be a no. Next up, we have The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. I read the first book, gave it 4 stars, thought it was good enough. But Miss Mackenzie Lee, she is the queen of problematic stuff, signing other people's books with her own name. I don't know why you're doing that, but I wanted to just give this book a shot because I owned it. I had bought it before I knew all that. And I bought it, I read it, it was okay. It was good. I liked it. I'm not gonna lie. I liked the book. I thought the book was interesting. I liked the plot and the characters, but I don't really care enough about them to keep reading 2 more books. I was happy with what I got. I unhauled the book. Like I don't own the book anymore, so, but it was a good book. You know, it was one that like maybe if she hadn't been so problematic, I would reread it. I would recommend it, but I'm just leaving it at that. Okay, and then we have, speaking of problematic authors, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. This one, I don't even know what to say. There's just so many things wrong with this, but I gave this 2 stars. I mean, gay enemies to lovers, yes, like that's what I want. In a fantasy setting, yes, what I wanted so bad. It was just so not that. It was so not the vibe. It was very much giving a contemporary author trying to squeeze in fantasy elements. Again, like just not giving anywhere near the level of what I would want in a fantasy novel. And just focusing so much on stuff I don't care about. I don't know how else to put it. Like it was just, I don't think it was a well-developed romance. I don't think it was good. That's just me though. I know a lot of people like it and that's fine, you do you, but for me, I definitely would not care enough to read more. And I don't think I'm ever gonna read another Rainbow Rowell book. Okay, next we have Sabriel? Garth Nix, he wrote this one, and I DNF'd the book because again, we're having a theme here. I don't like being confused when I'm reading. I found the magic system around this to be confusing, even though, I loved again, this is one that I just love the idea of like there's bells that do different stuff and like the girl can go between the afterlife and the real world and there's like a river Styx. Like it was such a good concept. But for me, again, the execution wasn't there. It was just something that I couldn't really get my head around, you know? And Tim Curry narrates this book. Like Tim Curry. I love Tim Curry. But just something about it, man. Didn't work for me. DNF'd the book. And I DNF'd it at such an interesting, like there was something very intriguing happening and I just didn't care. I was like, wow, if like this plot twist that's happening right now can't hold my attention, then this book is just not for me. Okay, finally we're gonna talk about City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett, which again is what I'm on the fence about because I listened to this also, but I actually really like the narrator for this. I just think that maybe it was a little bit too high fantasy for me, which maybe you could say that whole list because I pretty much listened to every single one of these on audio. Maybe if I reread them physically, my opinions would be all completely different. I don't know, maybe, except I don't really think that with Kingdom of the Wicked. Like I literally forgot I read the book. So that to me says I don't need to try that one again. But a lot of these I would try again. But for now, I'm saying like they're not a priority series or not anything I'm going to retry anytime soon. I'm going to give it a couple years, probably. That is all the series I will not be continuing for now. So that will conclude all of the series that I have no interest in continuing, at least for now. If you have any thoughts on these, let me know in the comments. I will leave my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter. It will all be in the description if you'd like to check out. Otherwise, have a great day. Bye.